All right, I believe the time has come when we can show you how to add some real content to your site by creating articles in Joomla. And in this tutorial, we're going to focus on making articles that contain text and photographs. And so let's open up the back end of our Joomla website and go to our article manager. And again, you could do that either from the top menu under Content, Article Manager, or you can use one of the big icons here. And if you know specifically that you want to actually add an article, you could use that top left-hand corner. I guess they put it up there because they know that this is probably the feature that is used the most when people come into the back end, is add a new article. So let's click on that, and we're presented with a kind of like a form here where we can enter the information, the text, and even photos and video. Really, when you think of articles, oftentimes you think of, a magazine article, a newspaper article, and that's usually just text. But when we talk about articles in Joomla, you should think of articles more as a container that can hold virtually any data or media. It can hold not only text, but it can hold photographs, it can hold video, and with the help of some third-party plugins, articles can even contain things like image galleries or product galleries. And so articles are much more flexible and powerful than just a place to add a blog, for example. Now, as I look at our page here, I realize that we have not yet installed our JCE editor into this version of Joomla that we've uploaded. And if you have not done that, that's something that we maybe need to do together. If you'd like to know more information about how to find extensions for Joomla and how to install those, we do have a tutorial available on that you might want to check out if you're new to Joomla and just wondering, how you can find extensions. You might even wonder what extensions are. Extensions really are third-party programs that plug into Joomla that make it more powerful, that make it have more capability than it comes natively. And there are virtually thousands of these third-party software programs that can plug into Joomla that can make it do things to make your site look better and more creative, more artistic. The way you can find what is available out there is just go to your Google and just type in Joomla extensions. And this is an official site. You're not going to be hit by spam or malware or anything like that. This is the official site of the Joomla organization, and they screen these third-party plugins very carefully. And here you can scroll down and look at the various types of categories of plugins that are available, or you could go into the search engine and type in whatever you're looking for. Like in this case, we're looking for better text editors than what comes by default with Joomla. So you could type in text editor. I've been working with Joomla now for 3 years, and I know the text editor that I like to use. And as you're following along with these tutorials, at least, it would probably be good if you are working with the same text editor that I am. And then, after you become very familiar with Joomla, you can branch out and try different types of text editors and see if there's something that works better for you. But as long as you're following along with the tutorials, so that we're all on the same page, it would be great if you had the same text editor. And the one that I like is actually called JCE. So if you want to type into the search engine JCE, should pop up here. The one that we want. Looks like there's all sorts of stuff available that combine with JCE, or what JCE has done to combine with others. But the main one we want is the big one with the big feather. Go to that one. And if you would like to spend a couple of minutes, you could take a look at the reviews that other people have taken the time to write in and praise this program. Otherwise, you can just go to the download button and be taken to their site. A lot of the extensions that plug into Joomla are free extensions. Some you have to pay for. This particular one is a free text editor, and you can confirm that by checking out their homepage. JCE is free. Now, there are plugins that actually plug into JCE to make it have more capability that I believe might cost a little bit, but the basic text editor is free. So let's go to the downloads page, and it's important to get the version that works best with the version of Joomla that you are working on. And if you're following along in these tutorials, you're probably working with the Joomla 2.5. So get the 2.5 download, and the one to download is the zip file there. So hit the download button on the zip, save that to your hard drives. Figure out where that is landing on your hard drives because we'll need to access it, or maybe you want to just take a moment. If you've got Firefox, you can just click on the little green down arrow and it shows up here, and you can drag and drop that into another file folder that might make it a little bit easier to access when you go to install it. And I need to do that right now. Let's cancel out of Article Manager and go over to Extension Manager. And let's browse to the hard drive on my computer where that has been saved. And just look for that zip file. Click on it once, it'll show up here, and then we can just hit upload and install. And Joomla will take that zipped file, unpack it, and install it, and plug it into the program. Most extensions do come this way as a zipped file, and that's the way you install it using the extension manager. If a vendor wants you to unpack the folder, unzip the folder first because they wanted to package other things that they wanted you to read or look at first, they usually say unzip me first right in the file name. Okay, so it has installed successfully. We just need to do one more step, and that is to go over to the global configuration under Site and select this as our editor of choice for this tutorial. There may be a tutorial coming down the road where we'll come back and choose the Rockpad, which is an extension that Rocket Theme puts out to plug into their templates. And yeah, there'll be a time when I want to show you how to use that. It can be very helpful. But for this tutorial, we're going to choose the JCE editor. Let's hit save. Oh, if you haven't already done so, I think I showed you this in an early introductory tutorial session. But if you're just kind of jumping in here without having gone through some of those introductory tutorials, there might be something here you want to change if you haven't done so already. Go over at the top menu here and choose System and go down to Session Settings. And it would be good if you set this to maybe 60 instead of the 15 that comes by default. And that way you'll never run into a situation where you're working inside your articles, you're adding photographs, and somebody calls you on the phone, you come back and you add some more, and you might spend a half hour working on that, and you go to save it, and it kicks you out of the program, and you need to log in again, and when you log in, the article is gone. You spent a half hour on it. I've noticed that Joomla 3.0 has seemed to come out with a fix for that. Even if you just leave this at 15 minutes, I've had it at 15, and I've gone over like an hour before saving, and it didn't kick me out. So, but I believe in the 2.5 you still need to change this to 60 minutes just to be safe. Okay, so let's save and close those preferences. Okay, with that taken care of, let's go back to our article manager. Usually this is presenting you with a long list of article titles that you can click on and enter and make some changes, do some editing. But since we haven't added any articles yet, we don't have any showing up here. Remember a couple of tutorials back, we deleted all the demo articles, and so we've just got nothing here, nothing. But we can change that very quickly by adding a new article to our website. Just click the new button up there. And the first thing that we want to do is give our article a title. And just like in your category titles, you want to come up with a title that describes the content that's going to be in the article. The title is something that can appear in the article itself as kind of a headline. Just like you would see in a newspaper, you have a headline title to your article that you're about to read to kind of draw people's attention into the story that you want them to read. And so whatever you type in here is very likely going to be that headline title. Now, it doesn't have to be. We can choose not to show this title in our article and come up with a completely different headline for our story. But it's a lot easier just to go ahead and think of that headline right now and type that into this title space. Now, there's a couple of other reasons why we want to try and make this appropriate and make it kind of descriptive of what's going to come, because search engines pay huge attention to the title of an article. This goes into a special field, and if the robots don't see anything else as they're scanning your site, this is the one thing that they're going to see. So if you can think of a title that kind of is not only clever, but also descriptive of what you're trying to share to the world, then there's a chance that your search engines will recognize that as something that's newsworthy, something that's important, something that a lot of people are talking about today, and put you on maybe a high ranking on their search engine based on what you call it. And so it's good to just take a moment and think about what you're going to call this. And the other thing to note is that even if you choose not to show this title in your actual article, it is something that may show up here in the tab of some browsers. And so you want to be careful how you word it. Even if you're not planning to have it show up, you want to have it something that's appropriate and in proper English or whatever language you're using, so that people can identify it properly. Okay, so this first article that I'm going to show you is a recent blog that I did launching a film project. I believe the title is Okay, and as for a category, we're going to put this in articles, but we'll put it as a featured article, at least for now, because it's something that we want to show prominently on the front page. And usually in Joomla, when you think of featured, you're usually thinking of what's going to show up on the home page. Okay, and everything else is fine. We're going to have it published. You can choose to have something unpublished. You're getting it ready, you're still editing it, but you want to save it, and so you want to just leave it unpublished until you're ready for the world to take a look at it. But I think this one's ready. We're going to leave it open to the public view, and so all of the rest of this is fine. Okay, now you'll see that our text editor is looking a little better, has a lot more features. The JC editor is really very similar to probably the word processor that you're working on. It has a lot of the same features that most word processors have. You can choose your fonts, you can choose your font sizes, you can bold, italic, underscore, center, and it's just all of the tools that you're familiar in most word processing programs these days. And this is what we call a what you see is what you get editor. And so for the most part, what you see as you work on your article is what it's going to look like when it finally gets up online. There'll be some exceptions to that, and we'll point those out. Okay, now you could just start typing in your article in this window here. Today, we launched, but you may find that it's just a lot easier to prepare your articles in your own word processor that you're comfortable with, and then just do a copy paste and bring your article into the window. And that's what I've done. I've got Word open here, and I've already written my article in Word. And so what I'm going to do is just, we've already got the title, so I'm not going to worry about copying that, but we'll copy this. However, rather than just paste it into our window, we want to do an intermediary step. We're going to open up our Notepad and paste our article into Notepad first. The reason we want to do that is because Word, or most other word processors, may have some hidden codes. You don't see them when you are, working in word processor. In the background, there are some hidden formatting codes that help instruct Word to show this article in the way that you want it showed. Like if we have, like this title that's up here in a larger font, it's blue, it's underlined. Well, even though we don't see it, Word has some hidden codes that tell it to display this way. And what can happen is when you do a copy paste, some of those hidden codes of Word will come over into our JCE editor and start interfacing with Joomla. And there may be some hidden codes that Word uses that Joomla might not understand, and it can cause some problems. However, by putting it into Notepad first, all of those hidden codes are stripped out. You'll see we have no formatting left, and so we might have to work with the text a little bit once we bring it in, but at least we'll know that it's clean and there's not going to be any problems. So after you've dropped it into Notepad or some other simple text editor like this, just hit Control A again and Control C to copy it from there. And now we can bring it in and just paste it in with Control V into our JCE editor. And if you want to see that stretched out further, this little corner tab here that you can see is kind of got some diagonal lines on it there. If you click down on that, you can stretch that out and resize this text editor. Now, I believe by default it just brings it in at a font size of 10. I usually like to show my articles in a font size of 12, so I'm going to change that. I'm just going to hit Control A and change my font size for everything at once by going to 12 there. And now I'm going to add some spacing where there's supposed to be some spacing. Okay, well, let's maybe take a look and see how that looks on our website. In our last tutorial, we mentioned that it's really a three-step process. You have to add a category, you have to make articles, and then you have to make a menu item in order to be able to have people find your article. Well, there's one exception to that rule, and that is if an article is featured. Let's just save and close this. If you feature an article, that article is going to by default show up on the home page, and that way people don't even need to link to it to see it. It's just going to show up automatically when people visit your site. It's going to be there on the home page. And how you feature any article is just simply go under featured here, click on the little button there. It'll change to blue, and then that article is featured. And even without making a menu item, we should be able to see it on our homepage. Let's view site, and here's our first article on our site. Now, don't worry that it's showing up in a white background here that doesn't kind of match the color scheme. In a little bit, maybe a tutorial down the road, one or two down the road, we'll show you how you can change this background to be any color that you want, as well as change the color of the text, even the font if we wanted to. Okay, but you'll notice that our title has shown up here in a kind of a headline format. And we didn't do anything when we were making our article. Nothing is showing up here. It's just picking that up from the top. Now, like I mentioned, we can choose to shut this off over here in Article Options. Right now, it says under Show Title, it says Use Global, and that means that by default, Joomla has a global setting for all articles to actually show the title. But you can override that. Let's click down and choose Hide Title, save that, and let's just, rather than use Save and Close, just use the Save button so that we can come back to our article quickly and go back and forth between our website and article without having to open our article up again. Let's hit the Refresh button and see if this works. No, it's still there. Okay. Joomla has this kind of hierarchy of settings and there's about 3 or 4 different places where you can choose to show title or not, and some places have a higher priority than others. Let's close out of this and take a look at another place where we can set this to be hidden. Save, close, and you'll notice that an option shows up here called Options. Let's open that. And under the Articles tab, let's choose to hide title, save that, and see if that takes care of our issue. Now let's go back to our website, hit the refresh button, and now our title is gone. And that's probably a better way to do it, because by setting our options here, we are making our choice once, and that's done. We don't have to change it for every article that we make. So by doing it here, that is better. Now what do? Why would we want to shut the title off? Well, normally I don't. Normally I just leave this on so that whatever title I type in here will be our headline. However, there may be some people who prefer to have just a little bit more control over the title. Perhaps they want to create a title, a headline that's actually different than the title. That would be one option. Say something like that as the actual headline of the article. And now we would want to format that so it's a little bit different than the rest of the text. We could go up and change the size of the font. We could change the actual font so it's a little bit different. We could italicize it or underline it. We could actually change the coloring of the font so it stands out. I should point out that that's probably not a very wise way to do it. And here's why. If you were to format your headline in this manner, and let's say you made 1,000 articles over the course of a couple years, and then you decide, I don't really like the format, I don't like the color, I want to change the color, I want to change the font of our header, our headline, you would have to actually physically go in and change it individually one by one for 1,000 articles. You don't want to do that. So let's undo these. And this time, let's just highlight our header. And then let's go over to Format and hit the little down arrow. Scroll down until you see your heading options here. And it doesn't really matter which one you choose. The point is to be consistent in choosing the same one each time you make an article if you're doing it this way. Unless you know in advance that there are certain articles that you do want to have a different style or a different font color, then you might choose a second heading. If you have a group of 50 articles that you want to have a different style for your headline than the rest of your site, then you might choose a secondary heading for those 50 and then have everything else be the heading 1. Okay, you'll see that it changed it a little bit. It made it, I believe, a little larger, bolded it. Now that's not necessarily the way it's going to look when we save this. Let's go check it out. Okay, let's go up to our tab here, and right now we have no header. Let's refresh it and see what it looks like by adding a customized headline using our format. Okay, so it shows up as pretty much the way we saw it over here. Let's see what happens if we change it to heading 2, see if there's any difference. Okay, not a lot of difference. But the point is that once you have your 50 articles specified with a particular type of formatted heading, either 1, 2, 3, any of these, you will then be able to, with one little line of code, be able to change the font, the color, bolding, the size of the font, everything in one sweep for all 50 articles. Simply by using one of these options, you can go in and say, okay, I want heading 3 to look like this. With just one line of code, you'll make the sweeping change throughout your whole website because you've chosen this option rather than individually customizing each one using the JCE editor. So just a word to the wise, even though you can format your text to look any way you want using the JCE editor, just know that if you do it that way and you want to change the look and feel of your website somewhere down the road, it's going to be very tedious to go back into your 500 articles and change the formatting of this heading individually one by one. So if you want customized headers, remember to use one of these specific headings and be consistent on that. Or the other option is just to use your titles. Let's turn that back on. Let's save and close. Go back to options. And for my purposes, I'm just going to show title. Save and close that. And now, even without going back in and changing anything, we can just go to our website, hit refresh, and our original title will show up as our headline. However, you're not stuck with this particular format for the way the titles are going to appear. Once again, with one little line of code. Now, I know that we started out by saying you don't have to learn coding, and really, I want to stick by that. You will not have to learn how to code in order to make these kind of changes, and we'll have a whole tutorial to show you how easy it is to make a sweeping change like this throughout your whole website with just one little piece of code. And I don't even type in the code. I just copy paste an example from somewhere else, and I'll show you how to do that. So just by that one line of code, we could go in and change the color of this, the font, size, anything you want, just with that one line of code. Well, I know that we said that we were going to show you how to add some photographs in this tutorial, but I see our tutorial's running a little bit long already, so I think we'll save that to our next tutorial and show you how to do that. I'm trying my best to make these tutorials shorter. I'm sorry, I just seem to have so much I want to share with people that these tutorials just seem to run long every time. I know I get some people complaining even saying, would you just please tell me what I need to know? Again, I do get a lot of compliments from people saying, I really like your tutorials because you give so much information and you go slowly and step by step. And I get emails from people whose first language is not English, and they say, wow, I can understand what you're saying and I can really learn from you because of the way that you do it. So I'm trying to make them shorter, but at the same time, I want to make them understandable and share information that I feel is going to be important for you as you learn Joomla. For now, I believe that that does it for how to add an article in Joomla, at least a text article. And in our next tutorial, we'll get around to showing you how to do photos. In fact, we'll make that our main point in our next tutorial, and hope to see you then.